Hey guys, how's it going? Ghosty Rich here today, and today we're going to be assembling a fence. As you can see, I have some fence panels from which I purchased online. We're going to see if they're going to work. Next thing that you're going to see here, got some caps, and we've got some posts. You can see one post is extremely long compared to the rest because I'm going to be using that post over by where Mika is on the other side. You'll see that use afterwards. So if we're taking a look right now, what's going to happen is we're going to start digging holes, but we got to know our measurements. So if you're doing this, you've got to know how to measure it. So you're going to measure from the house, unless you're going to put a post right up against the house. A lot of people just fasten it to the house. I'll leave it up to you if you're going to do that. If you fasten up to against the house, cool. So what you would do is you'd measure from there to where you want your fence to end. And then what you would do is you would measure from there to there, and then break it down into panels. Usually you get your 8-foot panels or your 6-foot panels, and then after you've measured that down, things to consider are the posts. So you're using 4x4 posts. So for example, for this long stretch, I know I need 5 panels. When I use my 5 panels, I also have to factor in that each post is a 4x4. So it's like 3.5 to 4 inches. You got to measure it and then go from there. And that way you factor that in by the time you get to the end. Because if you have 5 posts, we'll say, or 4 posts, that is going to make a big difference in your math calculations because it adds an extra foot and whatnot. So when you start doing that, then you can figure out if you need a custom panel. Depending if you know the manufacturer, if you're buying them from a Home Depot, probably not going to be the easier way of doing it. But if you go right to the mill, like for us, we have a ton of them in Abbotsford in BC, and you can literally go to the mill and then you let them know, hey, I need this, and then they can custom build you your last panel or any awkward panels that you're going to have. For example, see how there's a big one on their fence and then a small one? Well, what they need to do is make that small one for you. Much easier for them to do it than for you to rip off a panel and then have to add the 2x4 on the end. Although you can do that, just rip it with a saw and then cut it and then slap on your corner. Just depends on how much you want to do yourself. If you want just the panels done, or if you want to do the whole project yourself, go ahead and cut it up. The only part I probably won't show today because I still have to get the gate. But for right now, what we are going to do is get started by digging some holes. So what I'm going to do is measure 8-foot panel, so an 8-foot panel off the house, and then I'm going to dig my first hole. And for the case of this, I have 6-foot panels, so we're probably going to be going a foot and a half down. Now the reason why is I'm on clay, so if I go much farther than that, I'm going to run into issues, just because you can see there's a lot of countersunk rock here. Well, that rock is actually, they pulled that out of here when they were building the house, so I'm going to have some big rocks to bash through. So let's get started. I'm going to measure, like I said, 8 feet, and then after 8 feet, basically go maybe 2 inches in, not that it matters, and dig straight down to put our first post in. So what I would suggest you do first is screw your first panel into the siding. Usually I've done some security screws on both sides, one on there. This is your main panel because you're going to use this to base your whole fence off of. So make sure you check, and if everything's unlevel, you might have to dig out some areas. Make sure you got a shovel. So after you've screwed that on, next thing you're going to want to do is come over here, go to your next post, and mark it. What a lot of people do is they'll first tap in 2 screws. They'll figure out where this post is going to be, take the panel down, and then you dig out the hole underneath. After you've dug the hole out underneath, again, these are just some basic holes. We're going to be actually digging these out a little deeper, but right now we just want to get some basis of where we're going with this. So bam, one panel there. Once you have the panel there, you might have to dig out, like I said, a little bit, but what you're going to have to do is level it. So you're going to level it lengthwise, and then, or this way, best way to say it, level, and then lift it up, put your post here, screw it into your post. After you've made sure that's level, then you move your post over which way to make sure it's level that way. So that way you want it to be in a straight line. After you do that, screw it into the next panel, bam, bam. Again, come over here, dig your next hole, level it, screwed on, use that to move it around. Once you've lined up both of these so it's completely level, then you'd go on to your next panel. If you're going for very long ranges, you're going to want to grab some 2x4 and screw them and use it as props. But for me, I'm only going 2 deep because my backyard here is pretty small. So after we do 2, put our next post in, make sure that's level, screw it on. And as you can see, I had to dig a bit of a trough here so that way this works, which is fine because as you see, what I've done is I've got a gravel layer going on. It's because of 1, for drainage, and 2, it keeps your boards a little bit better from rotting. Some people may have something else against that, but for me personally, I've had good luck with having the gravel there. After you do that, next thing you're gonna do is just put in your next post, and as you can see, we're lining up the next one, and all you're literally gonna do is prep your 2 screws. We're gonna singe it up against here, and then after we singe it up against here, line it up here, put the first screw in, line it up flush against the post, put in the second screw, go over here, next post, and then we level. See, as you can see, that's lined up right there in the center. And then if you come around to the side, you look at a dirty Mika because she can't stop digging. That's the next spot. Okay, and if we come up here, look how straight that is. And that's what you're looking for, keeping it straight, and that's about it. So from here, keep going, and if you take a look, it's coming along great. Only thing is we have this gap. So what I'm gonna have to do is I've measured it, sent it to the guys where I got the panels from, and they're gonna make me a custom one. They're so cheap, I think they're charging me like 40 bucks. So I'm gonna do that. And then we have 1 more post here, and then we have 1 more post there, this connecting panel right there. And then it's just to backfill and use the concrete. I'm going with the red bag Quickcrete because all you do is you pour it in the hole, and then after you pour it in the hole, you fill it in with the hose, which I'll show you later. And then as it's setting, we'll line our fence so it's 100%. Use these little bracer bars here to line up our fence. And technically this stuff sets within an hour, but it says don't put too much weight on it for 4, which is perfectly fine with me. So set it all up, let it set overnight, and then basically the next day I can finish up back here. I'm gonna have a lot of extra gravel, which is nice because there's some dirt areas, which as you can see, Mika's lying in her land of dirt there, and my plan is to basically completely gravel everything. I want it to all be gravel except for the turf that we have here, so that way 1, she can go to the bathroom on the gravel and it's super easy to pick up, and 2, she doesn't like to dig on gravel. She only likes to dig a lot on dirt, so it makes it perfect because that means less digging from the dog. Anyways, I will keep you going, but this is day 1, which really it was like 2 or 3 hours to get where we are now. You just have to have 2 people willing to use a shovel. Anyways, let's see where it goes. All right, so I got my second piece today. I'm just lining it up, gotta level it, and then I'm gonna just press it in and screw it in. But yeah, I guess 4 boards was perfect for them to be able to make it the size that I needed. Next thing that's left is 1 more. So basically I bought a post today. It's gonna go right there. We'll have 1 last panel. It'll end right there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna Hilti 1 post here to the concrete, and I'm gonna build my gate off of here. And again, I contacted them. So I've been looking at metal gates. A metal gate was gonna cost me about 275 bucks. They said they'd make the gate for $65 and it's $20 for the hardware. And then of course the post is like 10 bucks and the bottom piece is 20 bucks. So I mean, all in, I'm probably about 150. And then Mika can't look out, which is kind of a good thing because otherwise every time a dog walks by, she's going to jump up on the gate. Isn't that right, Mika? She's too busy licking herself. So the gate has arrived. All that needs to happen now is mounting it. Gonna do the concrete today, so you'll get to see that work today. Gonna finish the whole fence project today. Let's get all the materials ready. Ain't that right, Mika? So if you're looking at the 1 post right here in the fence, you want to make sure, again, we're still lined up. Look down, pull. We're gonna open up the concrete. And the next thing to do is fill the hole full of concrete, and we're also going to throw some gravel in there so that way they go together and conjoin. What that's going to do is make a more solid base. You can see that there, just a bag full. And now the reason why we use Quickcrete this one is because now all we do is we take the hose and we soak that, and then that's all you have to do. You just have to water it. So all we're gonna do is soak it thoroughly. You want to get that all thoroughly wet, so you can just make sure that water goes deep. After this, after you get it completely soaked, we're gonna want to make sure that this post is 100% level as it's setting. We use Quickcrete because it sets within 30 minutes, solid within an hour, and then the best of it is done in 4 hours. So after 4 hours, you're good to go. So just like I said, for the next 30 minutes, make sure it stays level and all that other fun stuff. Next thing we're going to do is go on to the next post if you want. The whole row's level, and just start throwing it in there. As you can see, this is the bag we're using just in case you're curious. It's just a 25-pound bag. And as it says, you don't have to mix it. You can try and mix it a bit if you'd like, but you just pour it in the hole, soak it with water, and let it do its job. We've already gotten started on this side. What we like to do is let it soak in, let all that water go down. About maybe 3 or 4 minutes later, add a little bit more water so it keeps sinking all the way down, so that way we know it's thoroughly soaked all the powder and concrete. So as you can see, we're doing both the two sides first, this side and that side. I'm gonna have to drop that panel a little bit. It's just a little high right now because of leveling it afterwards. But anyways, and then what we're gonna do is, after these two sides are solid, we're gonna go and level the big long stretch here. And once you level the big long stretch, then you do that. These are your two major perimeter posts. So if you can get those, the two sides first, because those are gonna be your majors if your backyard's a little smaller like mine. If it's longer, then you'll want to get the side, the middle, and the other side, and then the same thing. You just want to make sure they're all level. So going off our sides right here, it's drying up still, but it's really starting to settle. We know because we tried to move the post a little bit, there's no real movement to it. So we started going down the line here, and these two are good. And then those ones, they need a tiny bit more tweaking, but we can do that as we go. We already know it'll line up. All right, Meeks, I think we're getting pretty close, eh? Chewing on a 2x4. So, let's show you these posts. If we come up, we gotta grab it, try and shake it. That's solid. No movement. So, I've already buried these three because they're looking good. Same with these ones. Waiting for those last three to set, and after they are, I might throw another bag in there. I don't know yet. I already threw two in most of them. So by the time we were done, I ended up, I started out with one bag, and then I was like, you know what? Concrete's cheap and I don't really want to mess around. So I threw an extra bag in pretty much every single one of them. Some of them only got half a bag. So yeah, I'm actually trying two different ones. Shouldn't be eating that. If we come over here, I also tried using Fast Set. Gonna see how that works. Same stuff as the other. So just another brand to try out, but so far it's setting really nicely. Again, it might set and then you might notice, oh man, after the concrete set, now my fence isn't 100% level. You might have to back out a couple screws and then drop it and all that other fun stuff. But for right now, you just need to see if, just get it so the concrete sets. Don't strive too much over that. We can always undo the screws and then hammer it down a little bit so that way it re-levels your fence if it's going to drive you bonkers. But look at that corner. That's like money so far. Might have to readjust this panel a little bit, and the one at the far end, already redid that one. Yeah, started the gate hardware. Basically what I did is I put the level under one side, put it, and I'll go more into the gate when I finish it up, because I still have to SDS a post right there so that way it can sit there, because I do have to back it a little bit away from the house because of that, just how it sits. So I'll show you more on that afterwards. Put the level down flat across there. You could also use a 1x1 if you wanted, depending if you want an inch gap or whatever you'd like. I'd usually recommend an inch depending on your cement. It might be even, it might not. Here it's touch and go. So what I did is I put the level lengthwise, and then after I did that, so you can see here, I had the gate up, and I first attached the latches. Once I attached the latches in the center, made sure they were level, I then put the gate on the level like this, and after I knew that it was kind of flat on there, I put a mark here. I then opened the gate, put my first screw in. After I did that, I checked the gap, and then I followed the gap all the way down so it's the exact same amount of gap, and then I marked the next hinge, put one screw in. From there, I leveled the hinge, put the screw in, put the next screw in. I still have to put some in, but that's just because I still might have to do some depending on how the post sets 100% later on. I usually give it a little bit. That's another reason why when you go to put your caps on, I wouldn't suggest doing them right away unless you really want to, just because your post might set a little lower as the concrete goes, depending on how the post settles. So after that, and we've got that, now I'm ready for the fact that I know that this will clear the uneven concrete because I've given it an inch gap from the bottom. And I checked and it does swing. I have it setting right now, or I have it sitting on the level right now just so I could show you what I've done. The next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have to use my SDS today, and I'm putting a post right here because I don't want it actually going right onto the side of the house, because there's that rail there, so it actually sticks out farther, so it would be on this really weird lean if I had it closed onto the side of the house. So instead I'm putting a secondary support in. You can do just they sell a metal pole, so you just SDS a metal pole in, or if you just want to keep the wooden fence post look, you can just grab another fence post and one of these brackets. Super easy. So if we take a look here, I close the gate a little bit so it's like this, and I know where it's sitting, and now I know where to put my post. So what do? I put my post stamp down right there, and I marked my holes with black dots, plugged my SDS in, and next thing you know, I'm just going to drill them out using the SDS. Up to you if you want to use a pilot bit, which would be a good idea. You start off with a small bit, and then you go to the next one. With me, just because I've used this a lot, and I know I've got a certain amount of control, I'm just going to drill out the 3/8 hole. Again, depending on your anchor, it'll tell you on the inside of the package the depth and of course the amount of torque to use when tightening it. So if you have a torque wrench, you can do that. Just basically don't He-Man it. So looking over this, I can see all my holes. Lift this off. Next thing to do, open the anchor, leave the nut on the threads like that to protect them, and you're just going to put that anchor on and then tap it in. Next thing you're going to do is hammer it as flush as you can with the cement. After you do that, leaving the nuts on the bolts, just tighten them, and you'll feel it gets tight. Basically what you're going to want to do is continue to get tighter and tighter and tighter, and after you do that, that's when it starts to squish and actually brace inside the concrete. So you can just continuously tighten it until it gets super tight, because what's going to happen is it's slowly going to sandwich, and you're going to get more and more threads. Then you're going to slide your plate on, and then when you tighten it, as you tighten it, if you haven't tightened it all the way, don't worry, because as you tighten it even more, you're going to get more threads out, and it's going to barb out more and squish out against the concrete. Take a look. So I put the latch on. All you do is you bolt your the shaft on here, clip it on. After you clip it on, put it up against the post, hold it there, put your screws in. Other than that, good to go. No room for Mika to get through there. Isn't that right, Missy? Yeah. So now I'm just gonna wait for that concrete to dry. I'm gonna do a little bit of yard work and bury the whole bottom. I want to bury that edge with gravel just so that way keeps Mika in better. Gives me a longer gist if she starts trying to dig. Although I haven't seen her try and dig gravel yet. She always goes for grass and dirt. Hates the rocks on her paws, so we'll see how it goes. Ain't that right, Missy? Mrs. Dirty Nose. So at this point, that's all there is to it for this video, but the fence is complete for now.